really pleased to be here as your superintendent, Rachel Monarrez, with 3 scholars from Doherty Memorial High School. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, starting with my right.
Hi, my name is Stanley Nguyen, and I'm a senior at Doherty Memorial High School.
Hi, my name is Ban Mahelhel, and I'm a sophomore at Doherty Memorial High School.
Hi, my name is Ethan Chapman. I'm a freshman at Memorial Doherty High School.
Thank you. And so they have some questions for me as their superintendent, and I'm going to answer them to the best of my ability because they've got some really good questions. So I think, Stanley, you're first.
Okay. What are the biggest advantages you see for Doherty moving into our building next year? And what are some of the challenges of this move?
Good question. Had to really think about that one. Have you had an opportunity to be inside that school yet?
Oh, not yet, no.
You could only see it from afar, right?
Yeah.
It's huge, isn't it? It looks a little daunting. I'm going to tell you that what I see as some of the greatest opportunities for you are the classes you're going to be able to take with the CTE programming that's going to go in there. So we're going to have 4 pathways. Some new ones I think that maybe don't exist already at Doherty, with then some new technology that goes with that, right? And really access to industry, which is going to be really cool for you. Lots of really neat spaces for students to come together in different ways for collaboration. The architects have been very intentional about trying to bring outside into the school and vice versa. So you'll see some windows that are placed in specific places for you so that you can think about your learning not just happening in 4 walls but outside. So those are some exciting pieces. Of course, because it's big, we're going to have opportunity for more students to attend Doherty. And that's good and bad, right? That's the kind of not the bad, but a challenge side of it that I'll get to in a moment. But the increased seats that will be available to students throughout the community is a positive to continue to build that true spirit of Worcester is about, which is, coming together as a collective. And then I also think that an advantage is just the pride. So you're going to be able to, Doherty has its identity, but as a new school, you get to establish an even deeper identity as the new class. So you will be graduated, and so when you come back as an alum, you'll see what that looks like. But you will be able to be part of that new spirit and family of what Doherty Memorial High School will be in the future. So that's definitely exciting as a advantage and opportunity. Challenge. So one of the biggest challenges is you can put things down on paper and think it's all going to play out really well in terms of the architecture and how it's built, but you can't anticipate what challenges or what needs are going to come about as a result of that. So next year is going to be very much a learning year in terms of how things play out at the school, at this new school. Sometimes things as simple as we thought that electrical outlet in that place is going to be a really good spot, but teachers really needed it over here. So figuring out how to make that work. Everything I just shared of the positives also have some challenges because it's change. And so navigating that change is going to be a challenge, but not something that I know the school can't overcome together. And then because we're going to have more seats at the school, then you're going to have peers possibly coming from other parts of the city that will be new to students that may have gone through elementary, middle school together. So forming that new family is also another challenge. In my opinion, the challenges do not outweigh the positives of what it's going to be for the students at Doherty Memorial High School. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, no problem. I have another question. As superintendent, what is your most important goal for the next 5 years?
My most important goal for the next 5 years is, so it's really hard to say a goal. So I had to really step back and think, okay, so in 5 years, what's important to me as the leader of Worcester Public Schools, and it's to leave the district even further in a better place than when I came. So as leaders, you always want to, you enter a space and you see what's good and you see opportunities. And my belief is that when you leave, you want what's good to be even better, and those opportunities to also have been really come to fruition. So wherever I go, it's always about leaving a place better than when I found it. And specifically for Worcester, it's around, of course, academic achievement. That's why, we're educators. We're here to make sure that you have better opportunities in your future. More access for students. Families and children are all asking for access to pathways, access to rigorous learning opportunities, field trips, you name it, athletic programs, increased access. Facilities, that's a big one, right, in Worcester, and having some revenue source for that. And then I think the legacy I really want to leave with Worcester Public Schools is to have a culture that really believes in the possibility of every child and every adult, that we can solve problems together, that we don't have to, that it's not someone else's job to solve the problems, it is our job to do that, but we do that with the students, with the families, with the educators. And so creating a culture where people feel like they can do that and the efficacy behind it, that's a really big piece for me. Those are a lot of small little goals, but I also believe that at the end, Worcester Public Schools will be an even better place. It's already such a great district, but so much better as a result. So thank you for that. Very insightful
Thank you for the
question.
response.
Yep.
What do you like about living in Worcester?
What do I like about living in Worcester? So believe it or not, coming from California, right? I know people thought, and it's getting a little cold for me, but I can still handle it. I do enjoy the change of seasons. I really did. I enjoyed watching the leaves change. I actually had some friends come and visit from California so they can see it, because we just don't experience that in California. So that's something that growing up here, you may not realize how beautiful it is, but it's very, very pretty. So I like that. I like the change of seasons. I really enjoyed watching snowfall. I'm like a little girl when I see it falling, because again, I didn't grow up with that. So watching that is pretty special. Another piece that I really like about Worcester is the architecture and the history that it represents. So when I look at buildings here, I can imagine what it was like, 100 years ago, and when that building was first constructed. I find that fascinating. So I'm very much a history person. And then I really like the different places we have to eat here. Lots of different choices there, so I like that. And then mostly, it's you all. You make this a great place to live for me. And so whether it's getting to engage with you during the superintendent student advisory, or watching you in your classrooms, or observing you on the sports field, or in some kind of dance performance, whatever that might be, that is the best part of being in Worcester. Thanks for that question.
What are some of the things that Worcester schools are doing to support emotional well-being?
This is like that ongoing question, huh? It's like we can never do enough, and I think that's probably true. So when I thought about what we're doing, I really want to talk about it in kind of 3 buckets, because it's a lot, and so I don't kind of want to be all over the place. So it's, when I came last year, I heard students saying, we're struggling, there's we need more counselors, we need more psychologists, we need things, because we as youth are struggling as a result of the pandemic. But I think probably it was even before that. Social media makes life more challenging for all of you than it was when I was, coming up. And so we took some time, because I said, as the adults, we can have all these perceptions of what you need, but we really need to ask you. So you remember last year when we had you guys do a fishbowl? Were you there last year? No, both of you were not there last year. So it was kind of early spring.
Yeah.
And we put together, we just listened to all of you. I posed some questions about, when you talk about wellness and mental health, what is it that you guys are talking about? And then you gave us some solutions. And what it came down to mostly was about opportunities to socialize and connect with each other at school. That there was a feeling that, when you guys came back from the pandemic, you were very much like you couldn't wait to see each other, and you were excited about that, and yet the way your peers, how you responded to each other, you were surprised at how many of you were still like, on your screen, right, in your hand, when you're at school with someone sitting next to you, right, or in the hallway or whatever. So that lack of feeling connected. So we responded to that this year. And I'm hoping you're starting to feel some of it. So one of them is the area of resources, right? So I said there's 3 areas. So there's resource, there's access, and then there's training. Okay, so in the area of resources, at your high schools, you now have a dean of students. So you have a dean of students that you didn't have before. I think at Doherty that dean was in a different role, so he is now in a new role. His role, or any dean of student at my comprehensive high schools, their responsibility is to create a culture of belonging at the school. And so you've had some things this year that I think you didn't have before, right? So you've had some spirit weeks.
Yeah.
Is that accurate, right? Did you already have a dance or 2?
Yeah, we had a homecoming.
We had
Yeah,
a homecoming. It was a really fun time for
Yeah, good.
students.
That's what you should have as high schoolers, right? Those are your spaces to socialize and to feel connected to the school. So there's the dean of students that we put in place to be, that is their role, to stay connected with you, to help keep the school feeling lively and a happy place to be. And so they're new this year, though, so we keep working on developing them. And the dean of students also have what are called climate and culture assistants that you might see them walking through your halls. And they're there to also be another person on campus to connect you if you just need to talk to somebody. Also to keep our campuses feeling safe so we can get ahead of situations rather than waiting. So that's one piece of the resource. Another resource that we have in place, and we started it last year, but the challenge is, well, we have contracts with companies who will come in and do mental health supports for children. The ones who need like real high level support, you know, like so one-on-one counseling kind of thing where the family is okay with it and they get permission. We have contracts in place with these companies throughout Worcester. They are having trouble scaling up to get enough people to come and work in our schools. So there's always this constant need for more people, for personnel. But we have that in place this year. We also have wellness rooms at all of your schools, at the comprehensive high schools and at our middle schools. What we're learning, though, is you all may not know they exist. So it's like they're there for you, but if you don't know they're there, then how can you use them? So we're working with the deans now to make sure that you know that these resources are on campus for you this year that we didn't have before. And then the final resource that we spent some time making sure is for our SACs, right? So our school adjustment counselors, the national standard in terms of ratio, so how many students per SAC is 250 students for 1 SAC, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually not, and we're at that ratio. I've never been in a district where we've had so many counselors available for students at the schools. So then that takes me to the next part, which is the training. So now we have to make sure people are trained on what we're expecting of them to work with you when it comes to dealing with whatever it is that you're feeling as young adolescents. So we've got some training on restorative justice and restorative practices. Do you know what that is? Okay, so the long and short of it is, you know, your children, right? I know you're young adults, but even adults, we all make mistakes, right? That's part of life. When you make a mistake, when you make a poor decision, sometimes it's not a mistake. It's like literally you decided to do something and it has a negative consequence. We want to discipline you the way you need to be disciplined and teach you that what you did was wrong. But then the restorative part is, and then restore you back into the learning environment where you've learned from your mistake and then you do it differently next time. And so adults need to know how to do that with children so that they know how to navigate both the discipline and the restorative side. That's training. And so we're working on training the deans on that. And most of your counselors are pretty good at that, but I don't think they were given permission to do that before. So now we're working with them on what that will look like. Another training that we brought into place this school year is our undercover bullying teams. And so we know bullying is something, you know, it was going on when I was in school. Today, it's even more challenging because not only might you get bullied at school, but then it continues into the cyberspace, right? And it's like it never seems to stop. Well, we found a model that works in my previous district. They had started it, and it turns things around greatly. And so we had them come and train some people this summer, and now we have to start putting it into practice, right? So these are some new things that the adults need to learn how to do so that we can further support you. The last piece that I would talk about is the access. And access is, again, making sure that you know what we have for you. So find out where that wellness center is at Doherty, because it exists, okay? Talk to your dean of students. Talk to him and ask him, what are we doing? What are we doing next? Work with your student council, because the dean of students is supposed to help with that. We also have climate and culture teams at all of your schools. Have you heard that? They're adults on your campus, so it'd probably be so for sure your dean of student and your SACs and some teachers who are looking at what the data says and making changes to improve outcomes for your school. So you need to find out who these people are, right? Because they're making decisions for you, and you want your voice to be a part of that. I would start with your dean of students, because that's a clear person. You know who that is, right? So those are some things we're putting in place. What I'd ask you is, what are we missing?
That's a very good question. I haven't really thought about that in a while because I've been more focused on the academic portion of the school year. But if we were to more look into what we're missing, I think for Doherty as of right now, we're still working on it. It's gone a lot better, especially like in terms of like Spirit Week and all the opportunities that are provided to students. Like, for example, at Spirit Week, we had Barbie versus Oppenheimer Day. That was just a phenomenal, fun day for all students to get connected to each other. And I think it's still that same original problem where we need to get connected and that we need to stick together and that we need to build a community that we lost in the past due to COVID. But it's gotten better over the times. Like now, every time I head to lunch, I see like these clubs are introducing themselves, trying to present that there is these opportunities to meet with new people and get into these new programs. And I think we've done a really good job about it, but it needs to still be worked on, and it will be given enough time. Just given by time. That's
Yep,
it.
exactly. It goes back to that first question, or one of those questions you asked me about in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So in 5 years, that's just the way we do school in Worcester, right? We have clubs for our high schoolers and our middle schoolers. People and everyone feels like they have a place, they belong, and they're connected. So I look forward to
I mean, like a good prime example was like South High. Like I'm not gonna just like brag about them, but they've done an amazing job connecting their community together. They had an old high school and now they have a brand new high school, and you can see the sense of community they've built upon, like international show or all the clubs they show off to all amongst the students. We see South High as like a prime example amongst Worcester that could be in like almost every school. That community, that sense of building, and all of that could be just placed into different schools. And Doherty is getting their new building, and I'm expecting that it's going to be a similar path to South, but not the same correlation.
Right, because Doherty has its own
Yeah,
personality.
it has its own personality. That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much for interviewing me and being a part of our first. So you were the trailblazers, and it's much appreciated. Are there any other questions you have for me, or we're good to go?
We're good to go.
Okay.
All set, yeah.
Well, I wish you the best school year, especially for you, since you're a rising graduate.
Yeah.
And I look forward to watching both of you grow as well. Thank you for being a part of this. Have a great day on behalf of Worcester Public Schools. From here, anywhere, together.